Shia LaBeouf didn't come up with a silver spoon. He came up fighting through struggle. Home was chaotic, the streets were violent, and every day was about survival. Acting gave him a way out, but the streets, they never really let go. Fast forward a few years, and in one of the wildest twists you'll ever hear, Shia went from Disney kid to running with the Harpys 13. But here's the real question. Was he just playing a part, or did he actually earn his stripes? This is the untold story of Shia LaBeouf and the Harpys 13. Shia LaBeouf came into the world in June 1986, born to Shayna Side and Jeffrey Craig LaBeouf. His parents didn't have much, and his childhood in Echo Park, Los Angeles was far from easy. Back in the late 80s and early 90s, Echo Park wasn't the trendy spot it is today. It was a rough neighborhood full of gang activity, drugs, and violence. Shia grew up right in the middle of the West Side Crazies territory, a gang mostly made up of Latino and Filipino youth. Gunshots echoing through the night, cars creeping down the block with tinted windows, and gang signs marking who was an ally or an enemy were just part of daily life. Just across Glendale Boulevard, another crew, the Echo Park Locos, held down their own turf. As one of the few white kids in the area and an only child, Shia often stood out. Life at home was no circus, though ironically, it kinda was. His parents were performers, hustling just to keep the lights on. Shia would later describe it as growing up in a carnival, with his mom and dad as the clowns, selling hot dogs on the street. By the time he was 3, he was already in costume alongside them, passing out food in Echo Park while they tried to scrape together a living. But the hustle wasn't enough. By the time Shia was 5, his parents' marriage collapsed. Their fashion business had failed, money was tight, and financial stress only added fuel to the fire. His mom blamed his dad blamed his mom. It was constant back and forth. Eventually, the split left Shia living with his mother in the Tujunga area, while still keeping in touch with his father. That relationship with his father, Jeffrey, was a complicated one. Jeffrey was a Vietnam veteran battling PTSD, and he self-medicated with heroin and alcohol. Shia has spoken openly about the abuse he endured: verbal, mental, and even moments of terrifying violence. During one of his father's flashbacks, he once held a gun to Shia's head. The split left Shia living with his mother in the Tujunga area. He often said he became the parent in the relationship, while his father sank deeper into addiction. Looking back, Shia admitted that the only real thing his father gave him was pain, and that pain shaped much of his behavior later in life. His need for approval, his anger, and his self-destructive streak all traced back to trying to win over a father who was never fully there. With his mother holding things together, Shia grew up watching her hustle, selling fabric and jewelry just to pay rent. But when he was 9 years old, something happened that scarred both of them forever. One night, an intruder broke into their apartment and sexually assaulted his mother. Shia, just a child, overheard the entire attack. The man ran off and was never caught. That trauma left deep scars on him, and he later admitted that it gave him PTSD. From that point on, his protective instinct toward his mother was fierce. Years later, when a man accidentally hit her car in a parking lot, Shia's mind instantly went to revenge. He grabbed a knife and went after the guy, though he didn't use it. That decision landed him in jail for 2 days, and it became one of his first real charges. Shia would later reflect that the urge to protect his mother was tied directly back to the helplessness he felt during that childhood assault. But even before that incident, trouble had been following him. His first brush with the law came when he was just 9 years old, caught trying to steal a pair of Nike sneakers. At 11, he was arrested again, this time for attempting to take a video game from Kmart. Both times he was detained for a few hours before being released, but it was clear that the streets and his turbulent home life were already pushing him toward reckless decisions. You see, around this time, Shia's dad was completely out of the picture, and that's when acting really started tugging at him. His mom signed him up for the Big Brother program, where he got paired with a stuntman who opened the door to movie sets and behind-the-scenes magic. Shia, being the bold kid he was, would tell the stunt guys straight up that he was going to be famous one day. They laughed it off, but Shia wasn't joking. Ambition was already running through his veins. Performing came natural. After the days of clown suits and hot dog stands, he started hitting comedy clubs. At just 10 years old, he was standing on stage telling raw, street-style jokes that had grown folks laughing. That hustle even landed him skits on The Tonight Show. But while he was chasing laughs on stage, his home life was heavy. His father, Jeffrey, was already exposing him to marijuana and cigarettes at that same age. Shia would watch his dad wrestle with heroin withdrawals and realize quickly that he had to grow up faster than other kids. He ended up being the adult in the room, Shia just a child. Still, Jeffrey always made one thing clear. He didn't want Shia to end up like him. As messed up as things were, Shia later said his father gave him texture, a roughness that he considered a blessing rather than just scars. Around this time, he met another child actor, and that moment flipped a switch. Acting wasn't just some side hustle anymore. It looked like a real career. For Shia, it wasn't about fame. It was about survival. He tied money directly to family. In his mind, if he made enough cash, he could pull his parents back together and stop all the fighting. That's when his grind really started. Shia began cold calling agents straight out of the yellow pages, pretending to be his own manager. He had a fake resume, random material, and a slick tongue. Agents had never gotten calls like that from a kid, so they listened. Eventually, he connected with Teresa Dahlquist, an agent who saw through the lies, but still signed him. She covered his rent, paid for his headshots, and got him small TV roles on shows like Freaks and Geeks and ER. Those cameos became his stepping stones, leading to the big break, landing the role of Louis Stevens on Even Stevens. Once that Disney role hit, Shia started carrying the family's financial weight. He really believed that money could heal everything. In his mind, his parents' love was real, but their fights were fueled by being broke. If he could solve the money problem, he thought he could fix the family. But even with the Disney checks rolling in, the cracks in his home life never sealed. His parents stayed apart, and even with his dad back in his orbit, life was still unstable. Because Shia was a minor, he needed an adult on set, so he hired his father as his guardian. For 3 years, the two of them lived in a $60 a night Motel Vista. Shia remembers the chaos of that time. His dad getting into fights with a pimp next door, trying to taser him over unpaid debts with prostitutes. It was madness, but that was his reality. Looking back, Shia has no illusions about the mess he came from. He has said his life was built on drama, tension, and a family that tried hard but couldn't hold it together. For him, childhood wasn't about joy, it was about survival, and the struggle shaped the man he became. When Even Stevens ended in 2003, Shia LaBeouf wasted no time stepping into the movie world. By the mid to late 2000s, he was everywhere, stacking roles and building his name. But fame wasn't all bright lights and red carpets. In 2007, not long after Transformers made him a household name, he found himself spending another night in jail, this time for trespassing. He later admitted that the pressure of sudden stardom had him spiraling. The fame felt like a cage. Everybody thought he was living the dream, but inside, he was drowning. On top of that, he was drunk the night of the arrest, which only made things worse. That wouldn't be the last time his name hit the police blotter. Over the next few years, small arrests piled up, illegal smoking, drunk jaywalking, things that showed how reckless he was moving. But the success of Transformers had already launched him into Hollywood's top tier. Soon he was playing Mutt Williams in Indiana Jones and the Kingdom of the Crystal Skull in 2008, sharing the screen with Harrison Ford. That same year, he led the action thriller Eagle Eye, with Michelle Monaghan, Rosario Dawson, and Anthony Mackie before returning to his breakout role as Sam Witwicky in Transformers: Revenge of the Fallen. But right as that sequel started filming, Shia's life took another sharp turn. Just weeks into production, he got into a serious car crash in Hollywood. He was making a left turn when another driver ran a red light and slammed into his truck, flipping it over. The wreck left him with a badly injured hand that needed major surgery. To make things worse, he was arrested at the scene and charged with driving under the influence. The accident threw off filming, but Shia pushed through. His fingers were still broken, yet he went right back to work, his hand literally held together just so he could finish the movie. He later said he was grateful the crash hadn't been worse, but the reality was that he was risking his health to keep his career on track. Meanwhile, Indiana Jones and the Kingdom of the Crystal Skull finally hit theaters. Shia played the son of Harrison Ford's iconic character, but the movie left hardcore fans disappointed. Unlike most actors who would have played it safe, Shia didn't hold his tongue. He openly admitted to the media that he felt he dropped the ball and let down the franchise's legacy. He even said that he and Ford had spoken about it, and Ford wasn't happy either. Shia believed the film should have been updated for the times, and he wasn't shy about calling it out. That honesty came with consequences. When pressed about whether his words might offend Steven Spielberg, the film's director, Shia didn't backpedal. He claimed Spielberg needed to hear the truth, even if it hurt. For him, Spielberg wasn't just a boss, but someone he respected deeply, almost like a mentor. But after those comments, their relationship broke apart. According to Shia, Spielberg told him there's a difference between speaking as a person and promoting a product. The remarks gave Shia a sense of freedom, but they also crushed him. The fallout was real. Spielberg cut him out of the fifth Indiana Jones film. For Shia, it was a painful lesson. The same boldness that made him stand out also cost him one of the most important relationships of his career. You see, Shia has always been the kind of actor who throws himself into his craft with everything he's got. But with him, the line between passion and self-destruction has always been blurry. In 2013, he was supposed to make his big Broadway debut in the play Orphans. Instead, it turned into a headline mess after he clashed with co-star Alec Baldwin during rehearsals. The official story was creative differences, but the drama ran way deeper. Shia leaked private emails online, one where he apologized to Alec, admitting he'd been wrong. But people quickly noticed he had copied parts of that apology straight out of an old Esquire article. When called out, Shia doubled down, firing back with a borrowed David Mamet quote. Without credit, of course, the play's director, Daniel Sullivan, backed him up, saying Shia was a brilliant actor, but just didn't mesh with Alec. Even Baldwin himself sent an email saying he had no hard feelings. But behind the scenes, Shia was still stirring the pot, posting more emails that shaded Baldwin's lack of preparation. Alec eventually fired back in interviews, saying Shia had no business critiquing the theater after only a week in rehearsals. Later, Baldwin revealed what really went down. On day one, Shia showed up with all his lines memorized, even sending Baldwin videos of himself doing the part before rehearsals began. Instead of blending in, he used his preparation to challenge Baldwin, even telling him he was slowing things down. At one point, Shia threatened to shout Baldwin's lines during practice if he didn't keep up. Shia admitted later that he did it on purpose. He wanted to intimidate Baldwin and keep him on edge. He stayed locked in that aggressive energy for weeks, so much so that when the play ended, he confessed he was still following Baldwin home, unable to shake the character. Things only got worse from there. In 2014, he made headlines again when he was arrested at the Broadway show Cabaret. Witnesses said he was smoking inside, slapping strangers on the backside and back of the head, and acting out of control. When police showed up, he was so agitated they had to drag him out in cuffs and even put a mask over his face because he wouldn't stop spitting at officers. Outside Studio 54, the same night, he was seen in tears. He was later hit with charges for disorderly conduct and trespassing. On Jimmy Kimmel Live, he tried to laugh it off, saying he'd been drinking while watching the World Cup before heading to the theater, and admitted he kept drinking during the show. He even joked about grabbing actor Alan Cummings' backside, but the mess didn't stop there. Days later, TMZ reported he got himself banned from a bar in Sherman Oaks after urinating on an outside wall during a 4-hour drinking session. Shia's extreme behavior wasn't just limited to his personal life, it bled into his acting process too. For The Necessary Death of Charlie Countryman, he took LSD for real to play a character on the drug. His co-star Rupert Grint recalled Shia trashing the set, stripping naked and hallucinating about an owl. It was wild, but for Shia, this was part of living the role. When he joined the World War II drama Fury in 2014, he took his method acting even further. The day after landing the role, he joined the National Guard, got baptized, and tattooed the word surrender on his body. He became a chaplain's assistant, lived on a forward operating base, pulled out one of his own teeth, cut his face with a knife, and refused to bathe for 4 months. He was chasing authenticity no matter the cost. The performance earned him strong reviews, but the intensity carried over onto the set. His co-star, Scott Eastwood, recalled a heated clash when he spat on Shia's tank during a scene, something that was written into the script. Shia took it personally, and tensions flared so badly that Brad Pitt had to step in and calm things down. Eastwood later said he respected commitment, but not when it poisoned the work environment. Shia and Pitt stayed quiet about the fight, but the story added to a long list of strained relationships with co-stars. It showed again how Shia's dedication to his craft could inspire brilliance one moment and chaos the next. And this was still before the darkest accusations against him would come to light. 2017 was a wild ride for Shia LaBeouf, the kind of year where his name stayed in the headlines for all the wrong reasons. It kicked off in January when he got himself arrested while protesting against Donald Trump's brand new presidency. This was tied to his "He Will Not Divide Us" campaign, a non-stop live stream outside the Museum of the Moving Image in New York. Things got heated when a man confronted him. Words turned to shoving, and Shia ended up grabbing the guy's scarf and scratching him. That earned him a quick arrest for assault and harassment, though he didn't spend long behind bars. It wasn't even the first time the stream caught him going off on someone who threw racist or white supremacist vibes his way. But the trouble didn't stop there. A few weeks later, Shia popped up in Los Angeles, drunk and wild at a bowling alley. The issue? French fries. TMZ caught him screaming at a bartender who refused to serve him because he was already drunk. Shia accused the man of racism, claimed he'd been hit with a bottle, and stormed out, only to return later just to drop off his bowling shoes. That night turned into a bigger headache when the bartender came back at him with a $5 million lawsuit for assault and defamation, saying Shia was drunk, aggressive, and ready to throw hands. As if that wasn't messy enough, Shia got locked up again later that year in Savannah. He was in the middle of shooting the heartfelt indie film The Peanut Butter Falcon when he asked a cop and a bystander for a cigarette. When they said no, he snapped. The officer tried to calm him down, but Shia only got louder. He cursed the cops out, took off running, and ended up arrested in a hotel lobby. The body cam footage showed him ranting about politics, the system, and even insulting a black officer, which made the whole situation uglier. In the end, he caught charges for disorderly conduct and public intoxication, got hit with probation, fines, anger management classes, and an alcohol evaluation. The arrest left him broken. He admitted later that going back to set after everything was humiliating. He couldn't look anyone in the eye, and he felt like his life had blown up yet again. That shame eventually pushed him into rehab, where therapy led him to start writing out the most painful parts of his life. Those writings became the script for Honey Boy, a movie that turned his personal trauma into art. Shia sent the script to director Alma Harrell, who helped bring it to life. But before the project could move forward, he had to face his father, Shia LaBeouf, who was living in Costa Rica after fleeing charges in the US. They hadn't seen each other in 7 years. Shia tracked him down, asked for permission to tell the story, and surprisingly got it, even though his dad doubted he could pull it off. In the film, Shia played a character based on his father, forcing him to dig deep into their messy past. It was emotional and brutal, but it also opened a door to some kind of peace between them. He admitted later that he had exaggerated a lot of the abuse for the script, saying his dad was flawed but never unloving. By the time Honey Boy hit screens, Shia was openly owning up to his mistakes, taking accountability, and working on making amends. Now, for his 2019 film, The Tax Collector, Shia showed the world just how far he was willing to go for a role. He played a character named Creeper, a tax collector for a local crime boss, someone who pulled up on different gangs to take the cut owed to his people. But Shia didn't want to just pretend. He wanted to really live it. To do that, he went back to his old stomping grounds in Echo Park, a place that shaped him when he was younger. Instead of rocking fake tattoos like most actors would, Shia went all in and got real ink for the part. That move turned heads because it wasn't just method acting, it was permanent. The tattoo artist, Brian Ramirez, gave him props for coming back to the neighborhood and showing love to local artists instead of spending his money in some high-end Hollywood shop. Shia's decision made it clear he wasn't just playing Creeper, he was trying to embody him. The movie didn't stop with Shia's dedication either. It also featured rapper Conejo, who brought his own real-life grit into the role of a satanic cartel enforcer. Out on the streets, Conejo was better known as G-Rabbit or G-Rabs, a name that carried weight on the west side of Los Angeles. He came up in an area controlled by the Harpys gang, a crew with ties straight to the Mexican mafia. Conejo's fascination with the streets pulled him into the Harpys' 25th Street clique, and he never shied away from it. He rapped about that life in tracks like It All Comes Back, My Block, and West Side Harpys. By 2001, Conejo and fellow Harpys member Edgar Looney Luna had become two of LA's most wanted after the killing of Mario Gutierrez. It all went down on Halloween night at a West LA house party. A fight broke out between the DJ and some Harpys members, and Mario tried to break it up by firing a shot in the air. But the crew turned on him, wrestled the gun away, dragged him outside, and ended his life on the sidewalk. Police later identified Looney and another man as the shooters, but Conejo's name was already tied to the case. Then came another dark chapter. On February 26, 2002, a peace-promoting rap concert went down at the Galaxy Concert Theater in Santa Ana. It was hosted by OTW Out the Wood, a Chicano rap group tied to the Inglewood Tree Say gang. Conejo was there too, performing alongside them. But once the show ended, shots rang out in the lobby, killing OTW's Steve Cartoon Rivera. When detectives pulled the surveillance tapes, they saw Conejo in the mix, and he quickly became a person of interest. To the LAPD, he wasn't just a rapper anymore, he was a Mexican gangster whose reputation on the streets outweighed his music. After that, Conejo went on the run. For years, he stayed underground, ducking cases and moving in silence until November 30th, 2016, when Mexican authorities finally arrested him. He was extradited back to California to face fugitive charges, including suspicion of murder, but instead of fading away, Conejo flipped the script. By 2018, he had completely reinvented himself, dropping albums left and right and teaming up with respected names like Cypress Hill and Proper Dose. His catalog grew so massive and spread out across unconventional releases that nobody can say for sure how many projects he's put out. easily more than 30. That non-stop grind pulled him back into the spotlight, and by 2019, he took things up another notch with a role in The Tax Collector. Around that same time, Shia also started spending time with members of the Harpys gang. Now, the Barrio Harpys, better known as Harpys 13 or HPS, is one of those long-standing Hispanic gangs that's been holding down turf in the West Adams district of South Los Angeles for decades. Their home base stretches from Figueroa Street to Normandy Avenue, sitting between Washington and Jefferson Boulevards. According to various sources, the Harpys first popped up in the 1960s, and today they're said to have more than 200 active members. Their name comes from the Harpy eagle, one of the largest and strongest birds of prey in the Americas, fitting for a crew that wanted their reputation to carry weight. Inside the Harpys, there are two main branches, the Dead End and the Wild Bunch. What's wild is that both of these groups actually started as neighborhood football teams before the street life pulled them together into one gang. Over time, more cliques formed under the Harpys' name, like the 25th Street Tiny Locos, 27th Street Chicos Malos, 28th Street Dukes, 39th Street Tokas, and the 5th Avenue Midgets. Their hood overlaps with the Rolling 20s neighborhood Bloods, a predominantly black gang known for beefing heavy with the Rolling 30s Harlem Crips. To represent their set, Harpys members often rock Houston Astros gear, using the big H as their symbol. The Harpys are tied in with the Mexican Mafia and also have an alliance with a crew called A2M, short for Addicted to Money. But even with strong allies, they stay locked in beefs. Their deepest feud is with the 18th Street Gang and the Easy Riders 13. That rivalry runs back decades. On September 6, 1980, 3 18th Street members were killed by Harpys. The payback came quick too, when an 18th Streeter allegedly shot and killed Felipe Clumsy Alvarado on the corner of Washington and Normandy. They've also had problems with a tagging crew called S4M, or Sex for Money. Since S4M rolled with the 18th Street Gang, it didn't take long for that drama to spill into violence. On May 7, 2006, Manuel Vega from S4M was gunned down outside a liquor store on Orchard Street. Daniel Martinez, who was linked to A2M, got charged with the hit. That shooting was said to be revenge for the earlier killing of Brian Panda Verdes Soto, a Harpys 13 affiliate from the 28th Street Dukes clique. So even though the Harpys ride under the Sureño 13 umbrella and have Mexican Mafia backing, most of their wars are with other Sureño gangs in the area, like the Alley Tiny Criminals 13. When it comes to Shia LaBeouf, he didn't just play dress-up for his role in The Tax Collector. In an interview, he claimed he actually got jumped into the Harpys, earning stripes the same way real members do. He's been seen throwing up the H hand sign and even got a stomach tattoo to prove his loyalty. Conejo, the rapper who co-starred in the film, backed him up, saying Shia was considered family. The film itself stirred controversy, with some early reactions calling it racist because it mostly showed criminals and gang members. But director David Ayer never claimed every person in South Central lived that life. He was focusing on a certain world he knew. Shia's creeper character, the lone white guy with a Chicano accent, reflects how environment shapes people, not a blanket stereotype of Latinos. The movie doesn't fully explain Creeper's backstory, but there are hints. His cauliflower ears suggest he's taken plenty of punches in fights, and the scars on his cheekbone came from Ayer's World War II movie Fury, where Shia cut himself for authenticity. At the end of the day, few directors shine a light on South LA the way Ayer does, leaving the audience to decide for themselves where the line falls between authenticity and exploitation.